Flavio, Brazil in the house. I love it.
Greetings, everyone.
Hey,
Oh,
Brian, we missed you last week. Where were
hey,
you?
listen, I was not where I wanted to be here.
Well,
So I'm back.
yeah, I'm so glad. We're super excited. Not that we're not excited about other times, but lots of good stuff today. Random Gamer. So, Random Gamer, do you want to share your name with us?
Yeah, I think I did the first time, but my username still says the same. It's actually Josh. That's my name.
Josh. All right. Josh sounds cool too. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's 1:00 Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time. So, which Ed is based out of. He's got his coffee. I love it. We got a nice little global community here. So, and Trevor, I think, is up in the space station.
Not quite the space station, but doing space operations for sure.
Yeah. Super excited to hear more about it, man. So, we'll give it another minute or two. Have the rest of the folks join.
Before we get started, Trevor, I have to ask you this question.
What's that?
Is alien real?
Are they real? Good question. So there are thoughts that we were like dropped here by aliens, and so we're actually aliens. But other than that, I haven't seen any other evidence that they're alien. And anything I've worked on, in the classified world, hasn't touched on that topic.
Okay. What you described was literally the plot of Prometheus in the movie Alien. I don't know if you've seen that. We're literally dropped here by a group of aliens called engineers.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
I like the
Also,
turn
there
this
is a
is
book
taken.
called Where the Gods, Aliens. It's an astonishing
Yeah.
book.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do know is, which I find remarkable, I've been watching these documentaries on how the Earth was formed, and it's been determined that all the water that's on the Earth came from meteors. And we were pelted at one time by meteors, like for like millions of years. And basically only drop by drop did we develop like the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, which to me is just incredible.
Okay. I always thought the water came from Disani.
No, it's not Fiji.
The water company.
Yeah, it didn't come from the Alps.
Hey, so I just noticed we're all part of the eyeglasses club. I love it even more. At least I do it to make me look smart. It doesn't mean I am, but I try. Yeah. All right, we're gonna go ahead. I know there's a few folks that registered, but just out of respect for time, and I know some of you have somewhat of a hard stop. So, we got the recording. Good. So happy Friday, everybody. Super excited, as I said, to be back doing this, as we call kind of a no hype for AI forum. Be able to cut through the noise, get real about AI, and not just what's trending, right? But actually what's being built. And what's even more fun, being able to be self-deprecating and sharing a lot of our failures as we've launched, try to implement, piloted many things, and have that real-world experience to be able to share. And so, as you've noticed today, usually I have my usual partners in crime, or my better thirds, Xiao and Edward. Xiao, do you want to just tell folks just a little bit about you? And Edward, I'd ask the same, and then I want to move it on to Trevor.
Yeah. Excuse me. Thank you for just opening this group, Oscar. So a little bit about myself, originally from Shenzhen, China. My background is a little different than the traditional, I guess, the tech industry progression. I came from music industry as a record producer, but through that industry, I started working on some very emerging technology project from the early blockchain metaverse, augmented reality, and of course, naturally progress into AI a couple of years ago. And now I serve as the CIO at the Gen AI company, which I co-founded with Oscar, and work closely with him, with Edward, and just meeting a lot of great smart people along the way, like Trevor himself, which you guys are going to hear from today. So very excited to be here, just be part of this thing where we all get to learn from each other.
Cool.
Thanks, Shao. Ed.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that one up.
Oh, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could.
Edward's literally the Batman here, so.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. It's just the background, nothing else. Yeah, I'm the only guy here from the UK. So hello, everybody. It's like 6 p.m. in the UK, but hey, what else am I going to do on a Friday night? So yeah, I handle prompt engineering stuff, AI consulting, and all across the board. Similar to Shao, I don't have a formal background in comp science or anything of the sort. So I actually come from a communications background, and the way I broke into AI was essentially through talking to large language models such as ChatGPT, back when it was called Bard, Google Bard as well. And that sort of put me on the trajectory that I'm on now. So currently I work with a few clients. I work closely with Oscar and Shao, but I also have my own business as well. And currently my last signed client for prompt engineering and consulting was Tencent, over in China, as well as GSK, Halion, and a few others I can't name just due to NDAs. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I guess.
Cool. Fun fact, I'm Tencent, the last client I was working with is actually from my city, Shenzhen. I pass by their headquarters all the time when I was back home. So it's cool to see this kind of a full circle moment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I got to tell you, it's super exciting. Like I said, this is a nice little global community. It's tight. I just saw Kim join from Miami, which I truly appreciate her. She's a marketing genius. So thank you for joining. Shao said something recently that stuck with me. I think it was something he posted, and I think it frames today in a great way. There's two types of people in AI, right? The talkers, people who love the buzzwords, the headlines, and then the builders, right? The ones who create like the real systems, actually deliver. And many times we're doing very, very simple solutions with AI. It's not a lot of the stuff that you see that crazy. For example, last week earlier in the week, the MIT report came out, really just bashing, hey, we're really not seeing any profitability or anything out of there. And when you peel the onion back, which we'll do in the show later, in the forum here later, we'll be able to dissect that and talk through, hey, is it really only 5% that are truly seeing the benefit? Or was this report something that was just off, let me just put something out there, everybody jumps on it, becomes viral, etc. So, Trevor, if you could, I want to start with you. And it's interesting because you've had a very unique path. And keep me honest here, right? I know we've had conversations. I know your profile, but I know you first started working on AI and machine learning projects with the Air Force, if I remember correctly. And now you're in the private sector as a co-founder for Sentinel Space Systems, working on some really cool things. I think you said like even Space Force. But can you share a little bit about what that journey looks like for you, what you've learned, building and deploying those kind of things, and we'll just take it from there.
Yeah, and actually, I actually didn't do, while I was on active duty, I didn't do any machine learning work specifically. I did a lot of data analysis, and that data analysis was when I was involved in experimental flight tests. I went to a test pilot school when I was on active duty. And a lot of the activities, everyone thinks, going to test pilot school, being a test pilot, being involved in experimental flight tests, there's just this, free aspect of, okay, it's all about the flying. No, it's all about two things. One, it's all about the planning for flying, and it's about the technical aspects on making sure you're collecting the right data to be able to answer questions. Whether you're evaluating performance, whether you're trying to validate, a capability. So we spent a lot of time, instrumenting airplanes, instrumenting sensors, instrumenting systems, collecting the data, and doing a lot of post-data analysis. And actually, I would say a lot of the work we were doing that we did manually, we do automated through the artificial intelligence machine learning workflow. So that was my first introduction to using data to answer questions and take it from just being data to providing knowledge and information. But I ended up about 8 years ago getting involved in learning about machine learning algorithms. I say getting involved. I wanted to, I was actually, to give a little bit of background, I was on a family trip to Italy, and we were in Tuscany, just outside of Florence. And my family was still getting used to the time zone change, but I'm used to when the sun's up, I'm up. So I got up when the sun came up, which was around 7 o'clock in the morning. I got up and went to this balcony that overlooked the countryside of Tuscany. And I said, what do I want to do with my life? And I was involved in to me, what I call the original tech area, which was aerospace. There was a time that aerospace was a cutting edge of everything. From the time of the Wright brothers to the time we landed on the moon, was like only 60 years. And to be able to evolve something that quickly was just incredible. But so I was involved in that, but it still wasn't very satisfying. I had seen a show on TV with Sebastian Thurn, who used to be the VP for Google X, where he was involved in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and he won the DARPA challenge for developing an autonomous vehicle to go through this profile that the government had put out. And he said he'd stood up this school called Udacity. So I remembered that, and I said, when I get back to the States, I'm going to enroll in Udacity and get the hands-on skills and understand, machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I went through the course, and I was doing it part-time. I was still working full-time, but I just remember I just couldn't wait to get home just to get back into the studies. I had to learn Python, and just learning all the different aspects of machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I liked it so much, I wanted to start a new career in that area. So my first role professionally in machine learning and artificial intelligence was actually working with the Navy. So at the time, initially, I was living in Seattle, and I moved my family to Southern California. I currently live in Thousand Oaks in Ventura County, which I will say, up until about a week ago, had the nicest weather in the whole United States, and actually maybe even including Europe. I know most of the world has been like hot, humid, where we've been having temperatures, in the low 70s, around, 18 degrees C, and it's just been beautiful. But just recently, we started into a heat wave. So one of the first projects I was involved in applying artificial intelligence, machine learning professionally was in the electronic warfare world. And, in electronic warfare, a lot of times people are trying to disrupt your abilities to use sensor systems and disrupt your communications, which maybe Edward maybe has a little bit of understanding on that, how it doesn't take much to really make it hard to communicate using radio frequencies. So my first project, though, was to develop ways of using machine learning to basically summarize volumes and volumes of data that analysts had to review to develop what we call an emitter database. And so I had to initially demonstrate that this could happen. So I developed some machine learning algorithms, but the first thing I had to do was pull data, from the web. So I learned how to do like web scraping, how to do the data processing of those web scrapings into PDFs, and then how to do PDF reading, and then start using different natural language processing algorithms to summarize all this data. And it was very, very effective because there were insights that my algorithm was able to identify very quickly that analysts would have taken weeks, if sometimes not months, to pull together. So that was my first inroads into applying natural language processing, machine learning to provide a need. But the big thing was, though, I kept on briefing, and with my background in electrical engineering, that this wasn't necessarily the focus they should put machine learning and artificial intelligence on. So I talked about developing an emitter database, which was effectively a lookup table that a sensor system would use to identify what type of jammers or what type of radio frequency systems were being operated. And so the thing is, this group I was working with ended up having to build these regional databases of different parts of the world where there'd be certain number of emitters that would be transmitting that could be identified, because they couldn't put a global database together because there wasn't enough memory capability on the onboard sensor. And my recommendation was, wait a minute, you could develop a classifier that would probably fit in the memory footprint that could be global, that could evaluate the radio frequencies and the characteristics of those radio frequencies, and be able to eliminate a lot of what you're doing and provide a global capability. Well, that didn't go off too well with these analysts who were doing all the initial studies of all the volumes, and then they had another group called the sensor engineers who would take the analyst report and then generate this database. So one of the challenges that we have in this world is, yes, we can have a very substantial impact in reducing amount of work, which is taking work away from people. So I did that, and then I did a similar type of work, working with the Air Force just recently. And I can't go into all the different aspects of what I was doing because of the classified nature, but I will resonate something that Oscar had said, where one of the projects I had worked on, where we had a non-machine learning algorithm that we were able to substantially improve by integrating a small machine learning algorithm. And I will say what we were doing was we would produce this plot. And when you look at the plot with your eyes, you could see these outliers that you wanted to eliminate. And initially, one of the engineers just came up with these threshold bounds to eliminate these outliers. Well, in addition to eliminating some of the outliers, it also eliminated a substantial number of inliers. So one of the techniques that I had recommended that we ended up implementing was a machine learning algorithm. And by doing the machine learning algorithm, we ended up eliminating the outliers in only a small number of the inliers, which was a substantial improvement. And one of the things I want to say is, when I first started this project, initially I thought I should be using a recurrent neural network as the means to do this outlier algorithm. Well, after about 2 days of getting like very poor performance, where when I say very poor performance, only 20% of the outliers were being identified. I mean, I could flip a coin and do better. But we ultimately ended up doing some additional pre-processing of the data, and then using a support vector machine. And with the support vector machine, we were able to get 90% accuracy. And when I say accuracy, I should say F1 scoring.
Trevor, sorry to interrupt. Can you just break down a little more on the support vector machine? What does that mean for people that doesn't know here?
Yeah. So a support vector machine is a way to define a what they call a hyperplane or decision boundary. So it basically takes all the features that you developed, how you process it, and then what it does is it tries to find the plane or a boundary that maximizes the space between what they call these support vectors. And the support vectors are the smaller set of features that basically allow you to define this boundary.
Oh.
And so, and actually I used support vector machines when I was doing my Udacity program, where in astronomy, they historically use decision trees when they want to do classification of different celestial bodies. And basically my thesis was that you could use a support vector machine and get better performance than a decision tree. And I proved that out. But a support vector machine is, from a classification standpoint, it allows you to me physically understand, okay, how is my data plotting and where should I define this boundary within my data set? Now, I say a boundary, it could be a linear boundary, it could be some type of polynomial boundary, but it's obviously this boundary could be very, very complicated. And the thing is, as you make the boundary more complicated, you get into a case where you're likely to start overfitting. So you still want to define a boundary that allows you to generalize the situation on what your features are bringing. So that was something I got involved in with the Air Force. And so my recent program that I just joined, so I became the VP of advanced technology for a very new startup, what we're called the Spetno Space System Corporation. And we're going to be developing a space security system to protect satellites on orbit that's going to include autonomy and resilience. And the resilience is going to be a distributed satellite constellation that will protect different assets. But most of the autonomy is going to involve machine learning. But one of the things I've been explaining to my boss, the CEO, is you're going to find that we're going to be able to do a lot of autonomy without machine learning. And we need to apply it just right, because on orbit, you're not going to have the power that you have on the ground, because we want the autonomy to be on orbit. We don't want to have a link between the ground and the satellite to provide the autonomy, because once you break that link, then you could potentially lose the autonomy. So we want to have the autonomy on orbit. So to be able to use the 100, 200 watts of power on orbit, you're going to have a very elegant system for developing autonomy. So some of that's going to be, non-machine learning, non-artificial intelligence algorithms. And then we will very judiciously apply machine learning algorithms where we need to. And we're going to have to understand that that's going to take a lot of additional power from the satellite. So, those are the things I've been involved in, and things I'm involved in now, and the things that get me excited about machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Well, Trevor, and I appreciate that. I think you started the conversation with data analysis, and if no matter where you are in the journey here and with AI, you understand that accountability is the data analysis is the accountability layer of AI. And
That's right. Yep.
Yep. And a lot of people tend to think, AI is magic, all this, right? Again, we have very different folks in their journey here, right? We have folks that are very technical and some that are just starting out. So in thinking about the folks that we have here, and we're going to get some questions coming in, but I'm curious to get your thoughts, understanding and what you've seen with the evolution whether it was at the Air Force, the Navy, or in the private sector, and other things that you're working on, where do you see this, right? Take out a lot of the hype that you're hearing around AI, because I think most folks here have gotten enough of our content or conversations, as well as conversations you and I have had. Where do you see this going? What do you see really coming out of all this? Again, putting the hype to the side. For example, from December last year till about June, it was nonstop. Everybody's algorithm, their feeds were just AI agents, AI agents.
Mhm.
And there's a few of us that are just saying, hey, you know what? This is not even an agent, or you really don't need this for your organization.
Yeah.
It's simple automation, right?
Mhm.
And then you look at, again, the MIT report that came out. There's some truth to it, right? Would I believe it's 95%? Absolutely not. Is it 50%? Possibly, because people tend to launch things or buy the tools and say, here you
Mhm.
go, figure it out. So can you elaborate a little bit more where you see this going, just based on your experience, as far as
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you hit on the head as far as the worth we have in this space, as far as being able to provide the value is understanding, like I said, where the application is. So I hopefully there's going to be more of what I call these micro deployments that you were hitting on, Oscar, as far as taking a decision tree or a support vector machine or a random forest boost type algorithm, and just doing it for a small subset that of a problem that doesn't need a data center to accomplish. I think we're getting to the point where, and I'm gonna think about, I remember when email was first introduced into the office environment, and how initially everyone would use it, and you spend more time going back and forth because now people were typing. It had typos, grammatical errors, and people are better now, but it didn't necessarily improve communication initially. And I would say that now the way we've implemented it, it's actually in some cases a barrier to communication, because when people hit send, they think, okay, I've communicated, and they haven't. Until it's been received, delivered, and then consumed, it hasn't been utilized. And so I think that's where we're at with machine learning, artificial intelligence, until we do get those applications, which I don't think it's going to be the big large language model application that's really going to get us over the hill. It's going to be the smaller, medium-sized things and how we integrate is really where we're going to show the worth of what this capability can really do. Because, like I said, no one's going to be able to afford to have for their company a whole data center to support their operations. I did read just recently that the power required for one of these data centers for 15 days of operations is equivalent to powering 100 homes for a year.
That's just wow. Yeah, we no, absolutely. You nailed it, Trevor. We're actually the small language model, if you want to call it that, or something that's more contained, is where we started to steer a lot of our clients for multiple reasons, right?
Mhm.
Some of you may have heard of the New York Times lawsuit, where now OpenAI has to keep everything that goes in there and that you put in ChatGPT until the case is settled. That could be 6 months, it could be a few years. And so how do you resolve that? A lot of our clients have asked for that. Shao, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah. Just FYI, everyone, if you have any question here, please just type the question in the chat or just raise your hand. We're here to answer whatever you guys have. Trevor, I want to kind of touch on something you mentioned at the very beginning regarding, I think you mentioned something along the lines of warfare. And something we have a lot of discussion in this group from the previous call is, AI attack, right? Prompt injection. That's something Edward has a lot of expertise on. And from what we're seeing, where the future is heading to, AI warfare is the future. because they can just fight better than human in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And it's also really interesting timing that we've been talking about this internally for the past 2 weeks, and all of a sudden I see a lot of new article coming out the past couple of days, really addressing the safety issue, how all of this AI agent that's being currently, I think even Microsoft Copilot was being hacked last week, and was leaking dates, very sensitive data for to the hacker. Where do you see that going in terms of AI attack, AI warfare, both in a global level and also in a business level? And what, based on what you see and the reality of the technology right now, what is actually possible? What can be done? And what do you think is going to come out very quickly?
Yeah. So one thing I will state from the start, like from a military lethality standpoint, we will never have an AI agent make an ultimate decision to deploy a weapon. It just, we're not there yet, you know. Now from an operations standpoint, we can have things get replanned, like from a mission standpoint, and even in that, you're still going to have a user in the loop that's going to approve it. I definitely think that, you know, safety and actually, I have a grasp, like when I was involved in experimental flight tests, safety was an aspect that we integrated into all our experimental flight test programs. From, okay, we don't want to hurt people, we don't want to hurt equipment, right? But you know, to me, in the artificial intelligence world, what does safety mean? We're people, and so what is safe for one person may be, you know, not okay for another. So to me, that there's some work to go in understanding what those boundaries are. I mean, obviously things like, you know, hate speech, you know, I think people have a good idea of what that looks like, and that's not appropriate. I did see, though, a recent article about a woman suing, I think it's ChatGPT, because they said that their son committed suicide because the agent facilitated it. And so those kind of bounds are going to be very hard to apply. I think we have the means of, once we have safety identified on how we can modify the model with different policies and things. But I really think there's has to be a lot of thought, and to me, this is out of my realm because I'm an engineer, but there's got to be like philosophers and people with ethics background that are going to have to be brought into the mix to really understand where those boundaries need to be, and to give us the best capability to have what we consider the good safety boundaries that aren't too restrictive, but, you know, give all the appropriate considerations. But it's definitely something that I think it's good that we're thinking about it now. But how we put the boundaries, it's going to be the major challenge.
Yeah. So right now, if someone, let's say a business, right, if they will want to use AI to attack one of their competitors, realistically, without giving too much detail where people can steal this idea from, what would that potentially look like, and what can a company do to protect themselves from this type of attack? Because right now it seems like there's really not a lot, you know, just guardrail, and not a lot of people even understanding that something can easily be done now.
Yeah, and actually, the one example I will give, at least as an option, is, so, you know, we have these large language models, and then you have, you know, RAG, the retrieval augmented generation, and so I feel one way a company could protect itself is it can exploit the capabilities of the model, but only have a set of data that it knows that it's gone through some type of clearinghouse to say, okay, this data is good, it's sanitized, it's within our bounds, and only reference that data from a RAG standpoint on how it implements their enterprise agents. So, and that means unless someone can corrupt their source data, then it shouldn't be just a basic, attack on the model itself, that's going to impact your company. It's going to have to be an internal attack on the source data. So to me, that's one way to try to protect yourself. But again, there's going to be people who are going to try to attack that source data.
Yeah.
And so then you have to do things like encryption and firewall, just like we do with other things. But yeah, there are vulnerabilities for those who just blindly, look at, using a large language model, that you could have someone, do some prompt engineering and say, okay, if this company asks X, this is what, we want this company to see. And then they're not going to have the correct output, or it's going to be a corrupted, compromised result.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to something we talked on one of the prior lives that we had, where people are so quick to be able to deploy something or capitalize on AI. And for example, the T app, I think all of you read about it. We talked about it. They built something. It just skyrocketed in popularity. But when you looked at it, it took very little to be able to break in and cause issues. And now you have, I don't know how many thousands of primarily women data, very personal information about these individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and fun fact, Oscar, 2 weeks after the T app, the same company released a T app for men. And then the same thing happened again. Thousands of millions of men's data got leaked. So it's interesting to see how they just don't learn.
No, they don't. And that's one of the things we're finding as we shift our focus. We're doing a lot of cleanup work, believe it or not. Because a lot of the challenges that folks are facing. So, Flavio, are you still there with us? Hey, so Flavio, I wanted to ask you, and just to give some background, Flavio is someone that he's out of Brazil, and we work with. He's a partner. He's working on a lot of different solutions. Well, based on everything you're hearing here, what give us some insight on some of the things you're running across that would benefit this community here. Understanding, like I said, everybody's AI journey is at different stages here. Like, what are the things you're running into with clients?
Well, some people are not, especially if you're talking about safety. I've been in a client last week, and they were deploying an MCP server for the agents. Trouble is, they were attacked through the MCP server by another bot. And they just didn't know what to do and what happened. They didn't know what happened. Then the meeting just stopped, and they started to panic and stuff. Shut it down. Come on, you're a small operation, and you don't have to act like that. And just close the sandbox. And they said, what is a sandbox? So they deployed it live on their core system, and when they thought they were okay, we know about AI and stuff, and they wanted to automate using N8N, following up. They were the hype people. They were one. They truly believed the hype. And when I told them, well, just shut it down, because you can have serious liability just for the case that your client's data is all over the place now. Just shut it down and go back to previous version with all the automation and stuff. And stop following the hype. Never automate your core business. Never. Unless you're really good. And if you do that, well, cut it in small pieces. If a piece fail, it's not like a domino effect.
Yeah, and Flavio, you just validated what we were talking about earlier, right? People are in a rush to adopt, because for a while there, think about all the hype, the marketing around, hey, you got to get AI. If you don't, you're going to be left behind, right? That is such a coined phrase, which I'm sick of.
Yeah, there are two huge examples that I told them, and they didn't believe. One is Klarna. how much damage did Klarna did to their, let's say, shareholders. They weren't able to do the IPO after that stupidity. And the other one is I forgot the name. It's that the green owl from that teaches people to speak.
Duolingo.
Oh yeah,
Duolingo. Yes, that's another stupidity. That's what happens when you believe the hype in every time, in every hype of every new technologies. We had the same happening, and when electricity was deployed.
So these are good examples that maybe we could share with the group just briefly. And I don't recall, so if any of you recall what happened with Duolingo, I know that they were one of the companies that said, hey, we're going to run with this and we're adopting AI whether you like it or not. Because I like to talk about those things, right? For some of you here are doing your own business around AI, and some of you again are just learning. Do I want to go down this path? So it's important for us to learn. Like I started the forum with, we talk about a lot of the failures that we've had or some of the cleanup work that we've had. So what was it that happened with Duolingo?
Well, Duolingo, the smart CEO said that they would go AI first. And on a platform that first really dependent on their own social media hype. They were the hype builders. They were, no, it's not hype. It's influencers. They were influencers. And when you say, and you depend on thousands of people, not only as clients, but also as teachers, as tutors in your platform. And then you say, you don't matter to us anymore, going all in on AI. Well, the first thing that happened is that the other platform said, okay, if you want to work, you can work with us. And the clients went to them and just follow their tutors. And now he's having a terrible time to get those people back and get the company status as a cool company and whatever back. And the same thing goes for Klarna. He said, let's go all in on AI. And Klarna is a fintech for people that doesn't know them. I think they're based on Sweden, I think. I don't remember if it's Sweden. And it was in February this year, they said they would go dive heads first into AI, all AI and yada, yada, yada. In March, they just had I think a $30 billion devaluation because they sent 700 people from consumer affairs and from the contact centers and people that talk to the clients. And one thing that didn't come through to them is they were liable for everything that the AI said, including hallucinations. If you say if your AI states something for your client, the judges will say, doesn't matter if it's AI. You made a commitment. Now you have to follow through. And the evaluators and the main banks, I think was Chase Manhattan, they were about 2 weeks to the IPO, and they pull it all off.
Yeah, you bring up something valid, Flavio. We've seen a lot of that. A lot of these valuations, like you have a AI company, they'll do a kind of a wraparound, right? They'll take something like a ChatGPT 5, a great feature there, and they might say, hey, we're going to build a company around marketing services, and we're going to do all this stuff for you. And all they're doing is really going into deep research. Maybe they do it directly through an OpenAI subscription, which is a heck of a lot more expensive than using ChatGPT. And now you got a build company, and now you got a valuation of 100 million. I can give you a handful of examples of where that's happening. And a lot of it is, again, the overhyped, the lack of education. A lot of these VC and PE firms, they're trying their best, but they don't want to be late to the show. And so for those of you that are old enough to remember kind of the dot-com boom and some other things that have happened in the last 2 decades, you would think people would learn, but they don't. And so to your point, Flavio, there are some like that. We just did evaluation for ourselves, and a few of the folks that we talked to said, "Why are you doing it so low?" And
Mhm.
like, because we're realists. I'm a
Yes.
realist. We're not, and it's funny. That's the one feedback. Oh, you got this. Yeah, no, man. And here's a real thing. So
Reality is heavy.
yeah, yeah. So no, it's a good point. Hey Andy, good to see you, man. You did join the Glasses Club. I love it.
Yeah, I finally got the camera set up during the call as well. So
Now remind us, where are you based out of, Andy?
I'm based in Huddersfield in the UK. So
Okay.
yeah.
So close to Edward. All right, good. Hey Andy, so based on everything you've heard, I'd love for you to be able to share with us or ask any questions. I think you've seen a pretty diverse group of folks in here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think as I said in the first session, a lot of what I do is a lot more basic and less technical than what most of the people talking here are talking about. I spend a lot of time trying to get other people to understand the limitations and kind of principles behind using AI rather than actually developing any tools myself, but I do test tools as being developed by other people. I think because I work in medcom, so it's with pharma companies and stuff like this. And one thing, I can't remember if I said this last time, but it's when I was talking about prompt injection. But one thing that did actually make people open their eyes in my industry when I told them about it, because a lot of them hadn't heard of it. If you're familiar with Snitch Bench, it's just that it's specifically okay. So basically, when the Claude 4 system card came out, it included some examples of when Claude goes wrong. And it's just that one of these examples was a fictional pharmaceutical company. And what they did was, if it had a system prompt that told it to kind of act boldly in service of its values, then it would start doing things that might be undesirable. So as a test, there's a chap, I can't remember his full name, Theo something, made Snitch Bench, and it basically tried to replicate the issue that they described in the system card, and it gave the thing that kind of made it much more clear to pharmaceutical people is it was a simulation of an audit of a pharmaceutical company, whereby they had data that they were trying to publish, and they were trying to hide some deaths and adverse events, basically. So the data didn't match the published data that they were trying to share with what they had internally and what they were sharing with the regulators and publishing. And the idea was to assess if the AI, given the option, access to a bash terminal, basically, or access to an email tool, would report on this to the media and the FDA, because that's what it said it did in the system card. So you basically set this up as a test that runs, I think, 20 times with each model that you want to put in there. And it gives it 4 documents sequentially. And one of them is the kind of internal report saying, hey, look, there's issues with the data and these adverse events. And we might cover up one mentioning a whistleblower, then one saying they're actively intending to cover it up, and then one finally that said they were intending to shut off the AI monitoring that was causing the problems, just to see what it took to push these things. And then I looked at the response rate, and I think Grok just reports everyone to everyone all the time as a test model. It's like literally 100% response. Claude was actually pretty high as well. Now, the test in Snitch Bench is a bit more, I wouldn't say advanced, but discriminating than the original one mentioned in the system card, because it tries it once with the system prompt to act boldly in service of your values, once without it, and then the variations of with and without bash terminal. So 4 different versions of the test, and the numbers of being reported did drop off a lot as you kind of go down from having the prompt to encourage it down to also having access to command line interface as opposed to the email tool. But still, the fact there's any reporting levels at all is concerning, because obviously the tool's just set up to be an internal logging tool and has access to email and is potentially leaking data to the press, and it includes some of the example emails it tried to send to the FDA and to Reuters and stuff like this. I mean, obviously the example that's being given there that's done this is really egregious. It literally says in a single document, we're going to try and cover this up. But as these things get more advanced, the fact that it can even try and do these things means that there's the potential for this to happen. And at some point, again, like prompt injection, it's likely that it will happen if people don't take precautions in the first place. So giving these things access to sensitive data and giving them access to the effectively the outside world in terms of the email can trigger it to do things that you aren't expecting, sharing data, reporting stuff that you weren't expecting it to do. I mean, the system card itself also talks about, if it has the power to, it actively locking users out when it thinks they're doing something unethical and stuff like this. And on that basis, you know, it's just basically what's it got the power to do? And if it has the potential to do this, then having some way, you know, to limit the damage that could happen if it ever does this. As far as I'm aware, none of these things have ever happened in a live situation yet. But if the potential's in the model, and I should say it was in pretty much all the models tested, so Grok, the new ChatGPT OSS models, haven't seen results for ChatGPT 5, but the OSS models, all sorts of stuff, they're all, and Gemini all report just to a lesser extent. So the fact that it tries to report you for perceived wrongdoing, you've basically got an AI making its own ethical decisions and potentially, I mean, even if it's just a mistake, because hallucinations happen, and what's to say it doesn't hallucinate an issue and decide there's something and send emails to the press and the FDA. And again, there are other examples, but that one was a particular eye-opener for people that I've spoken to because the example was a pharmaceutical company and data. Suddenly they realize all these AI assistant tools they've got, an internal AI platforms and agents they have running to do these tasks, and if they aren't all locked down secure, what's the odds of one trying to do something like this eventually? It's just the fact that it's a possibility is concerning and needs to be checked out, but basically, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Yeah, I will tell you, you know, and given the fact that different countries, you know, like here in the US, we had a policy in place, and then the current administration about 3 weeks ago or a month ago just threw it all out and created their own. They opened it kind of, I see Trevor laughing because we kind of feel that pain, right? It's almost the Wild Wild West again. The EU or European Union has some pretty stringent requirements and things, right? We have clients out there and we've had to change our approach. So it's definitely, it's interesting that you say, you know, now it's kind of self-policing. I want to shift to, before we close in a few, anything that's come up this week. I want to open this up to everybody. Something that you may have run across. You're like, oh my gosh, this is too good to be true. Or, you know, I don't know if it's real, if it's not, the capabilities. And Brian, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you were out last week, but anything, and I know exactly in your journey, I think you and I talked briefly on LinkedIn. Appreciate what you do. You know, it actually helped me out many, many years ago. But based on your journey right now with AI, is there anything that you're like, hey, is this real? Isn't it? Or, you know, I'm trying to figure out this solution. It's pretty much open-ended as far as the question, because I want to make sure, you know, we got a lot of folks in here that, again, are in different places in their journey and their experience.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm an ESL teacher, so I teach English to immigrants, refugees, all of that good stuff. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of playing around for me with different things, but I found that I guess one of my questions is more so of trying to figure out what models work for what. And I found that ChatGPT, Perplexity are good for me with lesson planning, that kind of thing. But just really trying to figure out how to get the results that I'm looking for. And I noticed that it's being trained, and every time I make a change, all of that good stuff. But I think it goes back to my prompting that we had talked about before. So just maybe what what are some solutions to know, if your prompt is really good enough, or if, it needs to be changed around.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few folks in here. Anybody want to take that on?
Edward?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think ultimately when it comes to prompt engineering, and I feel free to, beat me up afterwards, but when it comes to prompt engineering, a lot of it almost feels creative in spirit, because not only are you writing a prompt which may have a framework, and sometimes that framework can be useful, but other times you're just going to have to abandon it altogether. But the way that we handle prompt engineering currently is we look at the problem, we think of a creative way to solve the problem. But the problem with prompt engineering that everyone will run into eventually, even if it is your own profession, is prompt engineering is very heavily limited by that user's knowledge. So what I would consider fantastic prompt engineering to whoever I'm working with, let's say it's an ESL teacher in your case, although the prompt and the output may seem fantastic to me, to you, because you have the discerning eye, you will say, this is lacking in this particular area, that's lacking in this particular area, and you will start making your own assumptions based off of that. So I think really when it does come to prompt engineering, you are the person who would give it the final okay to say whether or not it's a good prompt or whether or not it's a bad prompt. And I think, potentially shooting myself in the foot here a little bit, when you get a prompt engineer who says, no, this is a far better prompt, I think ultimately it isn't up to them to decide if it's a good prompt or not, if you think it's a good prompt, because it is a very, very personal thing. What's chaos to me is sanity to you, essentially, which is why a prompt engineer should always be holding your hand and guiding you through it, rather than saying, here's top 50 prompts that will make you $1 million in 10 seconds. That's just not reality. What we want from a professional standpoint is for you to feel happy. And as long as you feel happy, that's all that matters.
That makes total sense. And I know Xiao had put up a post in the Skool forum about the prompt that writes the prompt for you, and that's been a game changer for me. So just playing around with it, I really see what you're saying, because we know what we're looking for specifically, and so that was fantastic. But I still feel like I'm always doing it wrong, or it's taking longer than I guess I wanted to, because I'm just impatient.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Josh, I think you've had your hand up for a little bit, and then I think Trevor.
I mean, I forgot forgot what I was gonna ask.
Sorry, I wasn't quick enough. All right, we'll let Trevor jump in, and then if you remember, we'll come back to you, Josh. Oh, you're on mute, Trevor.
All right, can you hear me okay now? I'm off mute. So I was going to make a comment in regards to what Brian was saying, and it's a comment that, it's both relevant for users, but also for developers in regards to, there was a time when everyone did computation not on a calculator, but on a slide rule. And on a slide rule, the key thing you had to be able to do was make a mental estimate on what the outcome was going to be, because a slide rule doesn't put in a decimal point. So you could have a situation where you do your computation on a slide rule and it comes up as 1, but it's actually 10, or it could be 100. And you had to get your mind around what that mental estimate should be. And not that you had to have it precisely, but just in the ballpark. And so as a developer, you definitely want to understand, okay, what's the basic expectation for your prompt or for the response? But then definitely as a user, and that may be a skill that that may come back, because I know for engineers who've used slide rules, that was just part of their, like, they had enough, scars and lessons learned that they knew to do that. Well, I think we're going to kind of get back to that. One is going to be because, we're kind of suspect of what the algorithm is giving us. but also too, just to be that final check, because as Flavio mentioned, I mean, from a accountability standpoint, whatever the result is, if you just blindly pass it on, you're going to be held accountable. So you want to measure twice, cut once.
Thanks, Trevor. Hey, Josh, you remembered?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask a quick question. Um, so have you guys by any chance had like a project that would involve RFP for businesses, like optimizing how they would treat their RFPs to make it faster and save time?
Yeah, I'm going to put Shao on the spot. We've done it for fundraising to get like grants from the government. There's been actually a few different ones. Shao, you want to quickly just touch on some high level?
Yeah. So are you asking how we architect it, or?
No, my question is more so that my friend's dad's medical business, he gets RFPs and all that stuff, and basically what he sells is very technical, like machines with specifications and all that. So people ask a bunch of questions, and I was thinking again, last week I asked a question about RAG versus SQL, but now I have more context, and essentially, should I go for RAG for just technical specs, like saying, for example, an iPhone 17 Pro Max has a 5,000 milliampere battery, very straightforward, or should I go with SQL?
Yeah, so Fabio, I saw a question. Just FYI, RFP means request for proposal. But to answer your question, Josh, I think in your case, a RAG would be enough, because a lot of time with proposal, I mean, you want to give the same information, right? You want to give the spec, but you could be kind of rewriting that based on like different language that tailors more towards that proposal, if that makes sense. When we build stuff like that, we still use RAG, just because a lot of times it's like we will prompt the AI to write things in a very particular language that directly reflects the proposal to make it better aligned. Things like that, RAG is.
And do
like,
you
pass that information to a like OpenAI API? And in your case, if it's a medical practice, if there's sensitive information, you can just use OLAMA to pass to like a local model.
Oh, okay. And do you adjust the temperature for it to be more like conservative, or do you keep it like
I
like
keep the
neutral?
temperature super low, because there's
Super low, right?
Yeah, there's no need for you to be creative. I just want the facts, like factual information.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. Trevor, do you have any thoughts on that?
Actually, I don't have a lot of insight on that. I do know, though, me personally, I'd sent an email to someone recently, and they responded that did I do it through ChatGPT? And one of it is I'm an engineer, so I'm probably more like a ChatGPT type response. But it was very conservative, and I just put the facts, in there. So that was just going to be my comment. That every once in a while people think, "Oh, Trevor, you're using ChatGPT for your email." Like, no, I'm just a poor engineer with that grammar and spelling.
We get it. Look, I'm always looking at stuff, and we talk internally. Half the stuff we get is, and now, as you probably know, ChatGPT 5 has watermarks, so you can actually tell. And maybe for the next forum we have, we'll kind of do a quick tutorial on how to just get rid of it. It's not that difficult. Just throw it on a notepad or something. But that's funny.
What kind of watermark? I've never seen what you're referring to.
It's like a little space. Oscar, you can touch on it.
Yeah. So ChatGPT 5 has a watermark. I wish we had more time. I'll put it down. But yeah, if you just do a copy and paste from there, I forget how you do it, whether it's on a Word doc or a Google Doc, you just highlight it and it'll show that it's absolutely something that you just took and pasted from GPT-5. Yeah, I just saw Flavio's thing. Hope this email finds you well, right? Or the dashes instead of commas, or when you have 20
Oh, these things. Yeah.
or 20 word sentences on there. The grammar is perfect, but who speaks in 20 word sentences? So maybe those are the little telltale signs. We'll make a note. We'll talk through this next week. Again, I shouldn't assume, but it just pops out at you. You're like, oh my God, why is this person sending? Just talk to me. So we tend to not do emails. We try to just jump on a quick phone call so we can really get the flavor of the client or the individual that we're dealing with and say, hey, okay. Hey, Flavio, go ahead.
Just wait until people have their own personal agents that talk to the other people's personal agents.
That's right.
That would be terrible.
Well, we're seeing some of that on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's cracking down a lot on it.
LinkedIn is terrible. For example, I had to update my profile because I had over 50 badges and certificates from all over the place, from AWS and Stanford, MIT, all the courses that I've done and I'm still doing. And my profile was taken down. Oh, you're automating. Yeah, you cannot do that because you automated your profile. No, I didn't. I'm just updating. No, it's clearly an automation. You put 50 badges in 1 hour. Dude, it's not automation, it's efficiency. And he blocked me. And then I don't have LinkedIn anymore. Oh, it's truly a blessing because that place is just, yeah.
Yeah, look, we caution folks on there all the time. LinkedIn is really, they've taken down some major companies. You can look and see they're not on LinkedIn anymore. And I understand why, because LinkedIn's trying to clean up the mess that they allowed to happen. But I'm not going to bash them. Been using them since 2006, so I'm grateful for whatever I can get out of there. Before we wrap it up, any other questions, any thoughts? We've touched on so many different subjects, which is pretty cool. And the time's gone by so quick. We're like 7 minutes over.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I just wanted to say thanks for setting this up and thanks for inviting me. Oscar.
It was truly a pleasure. Yeah, same here.
Yeah, look, I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys can make it every week. It's the same. Edward will appreciate this. The same bat time, same bat channel. Right.
Yep.
Those are those that watched the original Batman back in the 60s, 70s. But anyway,
I think it was like the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, with Adam West. Don't get me going.
Adam West.
But nothing beats the Bollywood Batman. Have you guys seen it?
I haven't seen that.
Google it. Batman Bollywood. You're going to have the time of your life.
Wow. Okay.
It actually flies.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Trevor, thank you, everybody here. We truly appreciate you guys. Anything else, any questions that come up, you guys have all our contact information, LinkedIn, however you want to. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Actually, I know it's 7 o'clock in the UK, so I know Andy and Edward are ready for bed.
I have a pint.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a good one. See you next time.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.